All right. Welcome to the third episode of Mayor's Mixtape. I am Haley Sue Robinson, Director of Public Affairs for the City of Pueblo. This is Mayor Heather Graham, star of the show, and the reason that we're here. I do also want to say I should introduce our producer and our voice from off camera, because a few folks have asked, our Chief of Staff, Brian McCain.
Hello.
We had a few people who reached out to me and said, hey, we need to introduce the voice on the mic before he just starts talking out of nowhere. And I said, okay, that's great feedback. But this is our third episode. It's available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Channel 17. We also created a new space on the website, on the mayor's page, for Mayor's Mixtape. So there's no reason that you cannot listen or watch the podcast.
Getting accurate news.
Exactly. Getting accurate news. We also want to encourage our listeners to email us, ask you questions, maybe suggest a topic, mayor@pueblo.us. So welcome to do so. I know there's plenty of topics that we can cover, and sometimes there's just not enough time, but that means there's next week, right?
Right.
Okay, great. So let's get into something that, Mayor, you posted about yesterday, actually on your personal Facebook page. And you posted a great picture of the Riverwalk Boathouse. Very exciting. You can see it from I-25.
Yeah.
It looks great. And this has been kind of a hot topic. I think
it's very controversial.
It is very controversial, yes. Folks are
I'm not sure why, but
they're either really excited about it or absolutely furious, I would say. You're either hot or cold. There's kind of no in between. It seems like we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
However, I was looking at the comments yesterday on your Facebook page, and there seems to be a lot of frustration, confusion,
misinformation
about
favorite topic,
about the funding source. So I thought that would be a really good topic to talk about today.
Sure.
Can you walk us through the Boathouse and Channel Extension project?
Sure.
And why would we fund something like this? Like, one of the questions I saw was, why would we fund something like this with our budget deficit?
Yeah. Well, what I can tell you is the city's funding portion of this project was only $1 million.
Of a $16
million project, an asset that now belongs to the city of Pueblo. So back in 2018, there was a ballot issue. It was 1A ballot issue, and it listed, it was a countywide ballot issue that listed several projects that they wanted to see done within the community with your tax dollars, 1A funds. And the Boathouse and Channel Extension were two of the projects that were listed. Another project was Hobbs Field, the road to the jail, East Side Streetscape, downtown Main Street, and Union revitalization projects. So there were several projects that were listed that this money is going to go to, and it's going to help be the funding source for these projects. So I completely get it. happened all the way back in 2018, and it's 2024 before we even broke ground on this project. But it took a long time for the city to secure the money from the county and secure the additional funding sources that were needed because of the time in between the time that the money was allocated and the time of the project start date. So the Pueblo County gave the city of Pueblo $9 million towards the project.
Okay.
When I first got into office, I worked really hard to try to find other grants and funding revenue sources in order to make sure that we could secure the $16 million for the project. So I received $1 million DOLA grant from the city.
Local Affairs.
Yep, in which it asked for $1 million general fund match. So that's where our $1 million general fund match comes in.
Okay.
We were able to allocate some ARPA spending that we hadn't previously done. So we used about $1.4 million in ARPA dollars that weren't allocated yet to finish the project. We got $200,000 from the Urban Renewal Authority, and we took $3.3 million out of half-cent sales tax. So the Riverwalk, the Boathouse, those were all part of the RTA project, and per the RTA guidelines and half-cent sales tax guidelines, you can use half-cent sales tax monies to fund RTA projects. So we were able to cobble together all of the money to start the $16 million project. So we didn't just take $16 million out of the general fund. We took $1 million. That was a match to a grant. We moved some money around when it came to the ARPA dollars that we were able to allocate to the projects. That was federal funding. The Renewal Authority gave us $200,000. The majority of the money came from the ballot issue from 1A at $9 million.
Which was voted by the citizens.
Overwhelmingly for one of the projects to get finished. The city is currently working on 2 other projects that were also, so the East Side Streetscape, they allocated $1 million to that, and $4 million to the Union and Main Street renovation. But, here we are again several years later, and projects have stalled and everything is more costly now. So again, it's going to take the city looking for grants or other revenue sources to be able to start the Union and Main Street project, just because of the time it's taken.
Sure.
So it's really important when the government gets funds to start the projects immediately before the project price skyrockets, like we've seen with the boathouse. The original cost for the boathouse was $11 million a few years ago.
Sure.
So with the price of inflation, concrete, that was the biggest
price
bump
increase.
up. Yeah. You have a $16 million project. But if the city wouldn't have received the DOLA grant and wouldn't have allocated the $1 million from general fund, we would have lost the $9 million from the county. So it's really, do we want to lose these dollars? Do we want to see this project go through, or should we look for other funding sources and try to put the money together to get the project done? And that's what we did. So super excited. The boathouse will be done end of November, right alongside with the Da Vinci project. So I think we're going to have a lot of action on the Riverwalk.
Yeah, all in that area of the Riverwalk.
I mean, if you look, the channel is already pretty much laid out at this point. So
I think it's completely dug, and then they've begun to pour some of the concrete towards the front.
It's really exciting for the city. It's exciting for the citizens. It's an asset to the city of Pueblo. And I'm looking forward to the opening day of the boathouse.
Okay. Great for clarification to understand the revenue sources, the funding sources, and help people understand. So we essentially spent $1 million in order to keep $9 million from the county.
Yep.
And then really, if you look at it, it's a community-wide, community-supported project with so many revenue sources.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, that's very helpful, because I think a lot of folks were very confused and really passionate, which is understandable when we're facing questions about the budget and how we're spending. I think it's important to answer the questions to folks.
Totally. But it's important for people to understand it too. So I know it's a lot of different funding sources. So we should make sure that we're doing a good job communicating where all those monies came from and why the city council and the commissioners, thought it was important for this project to get off the ground.
Yeah. But originally it was voted by the taxpayers. Great. Okay, so let's switch topics. Let's talk about city council updates from last night or Monday night if you're watching this later. City council had a pretty lengthy discussion regarding R1 and R2. So that was the financing and then the actual purchase of the PBR building. We talked about this pretty in depth last week on the podcast, but just wanted to see if there was any follow-up on your end or more information that you maybe wanted to share about this.
Yeah, so both R1 and R2, the financing for the project and the project passed last night 5-2, which was great because all 7 members of City Council gave me direction, my staff direction, to move forward for this project. So it was kind of frustrating last night.
Sure.
When, people started talking about, well, I don't know if we should purchase this because of our budget deficit. We've had a budget deficit for the last 5 years. So every year we've transferred money out of reserves in order to balance the budget. This is nothing new for the city of Pueblo. But what was interesting is, the councilors gave direction for us to make this expenditure for our city employees, for our staff, for the betterment of how the government runs. So it was frustrating, but I'm glad that the 5 members who gave the direction to move forward continued to vote in the way that they said they were going to vote. It's an important project. It's a costly project. It's taken a lot of time. We've been working on this project since last year. Last year, the city of Pueblo offered PBR $8 million to purchase the building. We were unsuccessful. They wanted to go with somebody else. Ultimately, I think that deal fell through. And somebody else purchased the building, came to the city, wanted to see if we wanted to
If we were
look
still
at it.
interested.
Well, first they wanted to see if we wanted to rent it for office space.
Oh,
the
okay.
numbers didn't make sense to rent it for office space.
Sure.
It made sense to purchase the project. In the mix of all this, we've had a couple buildings that have deteriorated so badly that I've had to move staff members around. And some departments, I have 3 people working to an office. So, I think it's a good purchase. I think that it's a capital investment for the city of Pueblo. We took a COP out on it. It'll be paid over 15 years. I don't think that our bond council would have necessarily let us, spend the money if they didn't think that we could make the payment over the next 15 years. So I understand the budget constraints. But I also understand that we need to look for other revenue sources, other ways to have income into the city so that we can purchase buildings, we can do infrastructure, we can do road repair, we can have amenities, and we can do projects. That's just how it works.
Right.
You have to have money to make money. You have to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's important for our employees to have a safe working environment, to have their own office space. And I think it's important for the citizens to be able to have a space where they can go and have, many of the departments that they might need to hit all in one day under one roof. I think that it's going to be a plus for the community as a whole.
So one thing that you mentioned was that was interesting in that was bond council.
Yeah.
So explain to me, we talked last week about COPs, which is certificates of participation. What's bond council?
So they're the ones that really help, guide the city in financial aspirations, whether that's loans, bonds, COPs. We work the same bond council when we took out the COPs for the 3 fire stations.
Okay.
So they're really the coordinators, really help the city. If we have to put buildings up for collateral against a COP or against a bond, they help us do that.
They do the evaluation process?
It's a whole group of people that work together in order for the city to make large purchases this way.
Okay.
It's what government does.
Sure. But basically what I hear from that is it's an entire process that's checked by outside sources that ensure that the city's making a sound financial decision.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Okay. Also, last night's theft from merchant ordinance, it passed unanimously.
It did.
7-0. And that dropped the threshold for theft from $300 to $100 with an automatic jail sentence.
Yep.
This is something that you originally brought forward. We talked about it last week at Sunset. And so it was time to update. And you wanted to update it with lower threshold so that we can stop theft.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about with this ordinance or kind of follow up about it?
I think with the $300 minimum, we saw a 30% reduction in theft from merchants. So I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe just for the rest of the year.
Sure.
If 1147, the legislation that we've been actively fighting at the Capitol, if that passes, there will have to be some amendments to the way we sentence, the mandatory jail, the habitual offender. We can't do any of that. So for the next 9 months, this ordinance will go into effect. So I'm excited to see what it does for our merchants in the community, and hopefully it helps people, and it has an immediate consequence for people who want to steal.
And we're able to track that type of information because, as I understand, Chief Noller normally sends CompStat, like a weekly review.
Yeah.
What all is encompassed in that, or how are we able to track that
So we
type
track
of
it through
information?
municipal court and the tickets that are issued, merchant for theft tickets that come through. So
seeing an increase or decrease will help us track it.
exactly.
Okay, great. Okay, I know this is continuing to be a hot topic for us. It will through the legislative session. Any updates about legislation right now?
So that House bill, it did, we watched it last week. It kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed. It ended up passing out of the House 37-27, but we had some great advocates like Ty Winter, who represents a portion of Pueblo, who got up and spoke in favor of Pueblo.
Okay.
The legislative breakfast was pretty hot on Saturday. We had the senator here who was a sponsor of this bill. It was interesting. One of the questions that he was asked is, what was your stakeholder process and who did you talk to at the city? And, his answer was something to the fact of, well, I received emails. So I'm not really sure who sent the senator the emails, but it wasn't the mayor. And we still have not had any conversation about this bill or what this bill will do to the community. Okay. In fact, I don't even think the senator has ever been to municipal court, ever stepped one foot in municipal court to see what we do, how we do it.
In Pueblo Municipal Court, he's never been.
No, which is interesting because he used to be a city employee.
Sure.
So we look forward to when it goes to the Senate. We will be, testifying again and pushing the needs for Pueblo. It's really one of the first times that Pueblo has shown up, so I'm excited to see what happens. And, hopefully if there's no amendments, we can work with the governor for a veto.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for the update.
Oh, Chief of Staff has an ad.
Oh, here we go.
Just one more thing. One of the questions that was brought up was that the JBC basically cut the funding for its defense counsel for indigent or people that need assistance in the court. And we actually do use that municipal court to pay for our defense counsel. But as of now, that's cut. And a bill was brought up that said that they were going to add more judges. What he was referring to was district court judges in just 4 of the districts. And from what I saw, somebody said that there would be funding for that in that bill, and I did not see that anywhere in it. But just so that people are aware that the money that the state gives us for defense for people is gone as of right now.
It's all been cut.
It's all been cut.
Yeah, it's not finalized yet, but that's what the JBC wants to do because the state, much like the city of Pueblo and a lot of other municipalities across the state, they're in a deficit as well. So they're cutting across the board right now, and that's some of the funding that they're going to pull back.
Great. Everybody's facing a budget deficit.
So what
not just us.
So what happens when the federal government pumps, tons of millions and trillions of dollars into the economy, and then when you're back to reality,
the shortfall.
You flatline, and there's a shortfall, and you have to figure out what kind of cuts you're going to make, what the best expenditures of your money should be. So it's difficult. I think every community is facing this right now, and so we'll see how it plays out.
Okay. So now's the time to take some questions from our listeners. Here's a good question we got via email. Mayor, where do you see the city of Pueblo in a year and a year from now with the quality of life?
Well, hopefully a year from now, the quality of life improves even more than it already has.
Okay.
In the past year, the administration is going to continue to clean up the city. Hopefully we will have a new operator of our homeless shelter. And I look forward to what we're doing with the transitional housing and the property as a whole. We're going to have a boathouse. We're going to have a Da Vinci Museum. Hopefully we have some economic development being brought into the community. But a year from now, I hope that the city is more on track than it is now. I hope that the quality of life improves. This is, one thing I was thinking about is why I'm looking at the CompStat reports that I received from the police department is it's March, and I'm going to knock on wood, but the city of Pueblo has not had one homicide yet. This time last year, we had 8 homicides. So, I think that we're seeing crime decrease in the city of Pueblo. You can see by the statistics that
violent crime. Yeah,
violent crime. We still have some work to do on petty crime and the crimes that affect the quality of life of the citizens, but I think that we're all working really hard to make sure that Pueblo is the best that it can be. And so I'm excited for a year from now and to look back and see how far we've come, because we've come a long way from a year ago now. So excited.
Yeah, so today's March 11th. You've been on the job for a little over 13 months. Yeah. So in your viewpoint, the quality of life from 13 months ago, it's improved.
It's improved, and I think that the citizens would agree.
And we can expect that for the future as well.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so Mayor, this is controversial. It's like the elephant in the room that we need to talk about. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Daylight saving time. Are you for or are you against it?
Against. Totally against.
Okay, Brian, this wasn't the question for you. This was the question for the mayor, but at least we know how our chief of staff feels.
Yeah. I think everyone is, dragging a little around the city, with the time change.
Wait, you got your coffee in hand?
What coffee? My second coffee today.
I'm actually surprised it's not your third.
It's still early. But see, my clock's not even changed yet.
I did notice that. Mine isn't either in my office.
7:39.
Yeah.
But I'm, I like the day. I like having sunlight, later than 5 o'clock
when we leave work.
Yeah,
instead of leaving in the dark.
Yeah,
I like it too.
So I think that more people are out and about.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start to see all the trees budding on Union.
Oh gosh, that's one of my favorite views.
Yeah, you could tell allergies are in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is one of the best times in Pueblo is when it's not too hot, but it's not too cold, and the sun's out a little bit longer. I think everybody likes that in the community.
Okay, so for now, you're for daylight saving time?
For now, I'm for it.
Until it potentially changes and we never do it again?
Yeah.
And then you'll be fine?
Yeah, I'll live.
It won't be the hill you die on?
Well, it's definitely not going to be the hill.
Okay.
There's other hills.
Sure, of course, absolutely. Okay, so in all seriousness, the actual elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Recall.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so for the last several months,
sure,
there's been a group of unhappy citizens who are very unhappy with me, and they've executed their petition. It's been approved by the city of Pueblo. It was approved Friday.
By the clerk's office in law.
Office, yes. And it's not approved for content. It's approved to form. So, city doesn't look at what's in it, what it says, what if it's true, if it's not true. They just make sure that the form is correct. And so it was approved Friday. They have 60 days to get 6,200 signatures, which is a large amount.
And that's 25% of the previous election for the position. And so in this case, it was the runoff election for mayor.
Yep.
And that's where we got the 6,200 number for signatures.
Yeah, so it's 62 valid signatures.
Have to live in the city of Pueblo, registered voter, address is correct, signature verification.
Yep.
Okay.
Just in my experience with my liquor licensing and petitioning to get liquor, getting 6,200 signatures is difficult.
Okay.
Just because you have to verify everybody, their name, their address, and do their voter registration. So, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get 6,200 people that are upset with me to sign their petition.
Okay, so what do you think about the 11 pieces that are on the petition? How do you feel about maybe some of the things that they want to recall you for? Maybe gas prices?
Yeah, gas price. I think Councilor Martinez said it best last night. She didn't know city council or local government had the authority to raise gas prices. So that would include the city of Pueblo mayor not also being able to raise gas prices.
You cannot raise or lower.
I cannot raise or lower gas prices.
Okay.
But, just in math, the more gas stations that come to Pueblo, the lower the gas prices, right? So
sure. Competition.
We welcome gas stations. And these gas stations that are coming to the city, they must see that there's about to be a boom in the city, because why are you bringing so many gas stations into our community? So I think that's a positive thing.
Okay.
When we have these huge gas chains wanting to bring multiple gas stores to the community, and gas prices are dropping. So I think that's a win for everybody. Okay.
Anything else that you want to look at on the petition or combat or?
Combat, 99% of everything that they've alleged. I think it's very opinionated, and I think that the majority of the community voted me in for the reasons that these individuals are so upset about. So, obviously, I'm doing something right if, people are wanting me out of here for cleaning up the city, for increasing public safety and transparency and accountability in government. I guess we'll just see what happens. So they have 60 days.
Sure.
6,200 signatures.
Yep.
Then it will go to vote of the people. And so I will hope that if they get the signatures that, my supporters and people are happy with what we've been doing in the community, show up. But I doubt it will get that far. Over the last week, I've had a ton of support from community members and, really saying that this recall is BS and that these were my campaign promises and I'm fulfilling them and people should be happy about that.
Okay, so one thing that you just touched on is happiness, and one thing that's in the petition is that you don't necessarily listen to your constituents who complain.
Which is interesting.
Sure.
Because I think I've met with over 600 people.
Last year.
Just last year, yeah.
Probably
I can't
not
even tell you
even
how many
this year.
This year.
Sure.
What also is interesting is the 3 people who are petitioning to get me out of office, I've only ever met one of them who came to my office.
They've never met with you?
Never met with me.
Okay.
Not reached out. Obviously, Facebook yelled at me about, issues that are going on. But, for people that have such a problem with me, my door is always open. And we can always have, conversations about any of the 11 things that you want to recall me about. And so it's interesting that you can receive, so much hate, so much negativity for people you've never even met, never even bothered to sit down and have a conversation about why you do what you do. It's just an assumption, and I don't think it's fair. And we'll continue to do what we've been doing. I don't regret any of the decisions I've made this far, and we're just going to keep up the good work we've been doing in the community.
Okay.
See what happens.
Great. Mayor, you have anything else to add to today's podcast? Any other topics you think we should cover?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay, great. I think that's a good stopping point for us. Again, I want to invite folks to follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout. We repost this on the mayor's Facebook page, Mayor Heather Graham. It's also on our government channel 17. And we, of course, invite folks to email for a topic or a question, maybe something they want you to talk about more in depth. You can email mayor@pueblo.us and subscribe, share this with your friends and neighbors.
Yeah. We hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, until next time.